When they say that manifesting is all about your state of being and your state of feeling, it's actually, I would go as far as to say that you create different cymatic patterns in your energy body, and like by holding a certain frequency, you become a certain shape internally that then fits like a puzzle piece with a certain reality and like locks into it. Like it's like you become a frequency key, like a living frequency key that opens certain dimensional doorways. And so yeah, back to how me making that shift and saying I want my freedom, like I am free, that made it so that the outer world became a perfect fit with that frequency and reflected it back to me. It's interesting that I had that shift internally where I was like, you know what, I am in love already. I'm in love and I'm here by myself, but I'm in love with myself, and it's fine. Like I don't need to grasp outwardly. At the same time that I was having that shift inside of myself, he tells me that that was when he had the shift in himself, that he was okay without, you know, a companion. Like he could feel the love already in himself. And so we both simultaneously, spontaneously, but separately had that shift, and then that's what brought us together. And so you really do, by unlocking, you know, or becoming that frequency key, like you do unlock dimensions that were right in front of you, but you just couldn't see them because you weren't in that frequency. Because I just can't get over the fact that we were friends for 3 years, and it was like I was seeing him with new eyes after I decided to be in love. He was there the whole time.
Welcome to Connecting with Coincidence. Very glad you are here with Alicen and me. Alicen is in Chattanooga, Tennessee currently, and she's a singer and a songwriter. And like a lot of people that I'm running into, it's not just academics that pay attention to meaningful coincidences. It's a lot of musicians get into this too in their various forms. And I think it has something to do with rhythm. I think it has something to do with rhythm because, I mean, there's music that may not have rhythm. Some of them drum things, I can't find the rhythm, but they're still in there. But synchronicity, it has to do with rhythm and resonance. And somehow I think musicians have a tendency in that direction. So it's not that much of a leap to get from poetry, singing, music, any kind of music. I like to dance, as I keep loving to tell people, because that's where I become part of the music. It's when I get lined up with the music, it's like it comes through me, and I'm an expression of the rhythm and the melodies. It's a way of thinking about synchronicity into the future that I hope programs like this and conversations like this with you may help people do. So I'll give a more formal description of Alicen's biography. Her name is Alicen, but it's pronounced like Alice with an N on it. And that's a name she made up. She's a writer, musician, and a magician with a K.
Yes.
Which is important to be able to mention, with a penchant towards pondering paradoxes. Penchant for pondering paradox. That's no accident. Alicen teaches how to get lucid in the dream of life. So she's thinking about life is but a dream. If I could wake up into paradise up just above. And that's an old song from the 50s that I really like.
Yeah.
Her process of interpreting life itself the same exact way that one would interpret the symbols in a dream. And I'm with you on that one. The trouble with life is there's so much stuff coming in, you got to make a filter. The trouble with dreams is that you can't tell what they're talking about, and you got to analyze them and organize them. But there's still a challenge of interpretation of these experiences that are really important. Yesterday I was at a a bed and breakfast in the kitchen while the grandmother was baking cookies with her two granddaughters, aged 10 and 12. And one of the granddaughters, age 10, has the same name as the person who is living in my house, renting in my house. The grandmother's name to the children is the same as my mother-in-law's name to my grandchildren.
Hmm.
And what was most fun is that I started doing Donald Duck talk to one of the girls. And one of them said, "Hey, my grandfather does that."
Ah, oh wow.
So there was Life is But a Dream, where
Mm-hmm.
what my experience was being mirrored around me. But
Mm-hmm.
the most fun was I ended up dancing with the 10-year-old, so that was the best
Aw.
part of it all. So Life is But a Dream, and Alicen is going to get into that more. She's healed herself using these ideas of various illnesses and manifested miracles. And it is her driving desire to catalyze similar breakthroughs in other people who encounter her work. And this is her book. It's easy to read. Synchronicities. The signs all point to
You.
you did the you. That's good.
We're in sync.
We're in sync. That's right. We're in sync. So, Alicen, tell us how you came up with that subtitle and what it means for our audience that the signs all point to you.
Great question to start with because it's really the meat of what the book is about and everything I teach. It took me years of wandering around confusedly in life, following this sign this way and following that sign that way, and getting tangled up in different life paths, feeling more and more lost as I continued to follow signs. It took me years of that before I realized that the signs were not coming from outside of me. They weren't coming from some external authority. Signs weren't permission to act on a certain desire. They weren't guidance from like an angel or something, but they were just an echo, a delayed echo from my own inner world. So once I started getting into the practice of noticing a synchronicity that felt really spooky and like, whoa, like what are the chances? I was just thinking about that. Once I started realizing that that was my sign to go back inward and trace back my thoughts until I found the vibration or the state of being that had then resulted in that synchronicity, I started becoming much more aware of what was actually going on in my inner world. And when I say inner world, I mean my imagination, my emotions, feeling states, the thoughts that I would dwell on throughout the day. As I developed more clarity and awareness of the kinds of things happening in my inner world, my inner weather, so to speak, I realized that every synchronicity I had ever experienced in my life actually could be traced back to a thought that I had a week before, or a feeling state that I had 3 days before, or, it was just a delayed feedback system. And so when I say the signs all point to you, I mean, a lot of mystics, we can get into really sticky situations thinking that when we start seeing synchronicities, it's our spirit guides or ancestors talking to us or something, and then we, or we might perceive signs as like permission or guidance that we're supposed to follow or supposed to obey. And that's, at its worst, that can be a sort of giving away of personal power, a giving away of sovereignty. And so to come back to the self and take responsibility for everything you see in the outer world and realize that it all starts within, it's a way of bringing back your sense of sovereignty, your sense of radical responsibility for your life. And it clears up a whole lot of confusion, because I know I'm not the only person who followed signs and synchronicities for years and ended up feeling more confused and more lost. And I'm sure some of your viewers will recognize themselves in this. Sometimes you'll see a synchronicity, and then you'll consult a tarot deck and ask the tarot what did it mean, and then the reading will confuse you, so you'll ask for a clarification card, and that'll make you more confused, so then you'll go to the pendulum, and then you'll ask a friend, and you know, it just gets like, it's this lasagna of confusion. So I find that it's much easier, and there's so much more clarity in going back inward and asking the self, you know, what does that mean, rather than Googling, you know, what does 1111 mean when I see it on the microwave?
Which, of course, a lot of people do. They go to Google or something and say, what does it mean? And you don't. You're doing radical responsibility here. You're saying it's about you. Now, that can make some people more ego inflated, can't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I can't deny that I've definitely had those phases in my life. I think what has brought me back down to earth is to recognize that my concept of self it's not contained in this one incarnation. I may appear to be Alicen. I may seem to have this one face and this one body, but the more I engage with synchronicity, especially when those synchronicities come through other people or animals, the more I recognize there is no separation between me and everyone else. So it's actually made me feel very comfortable with this concept of I am nothing, I am no one, this very Buddhist kind of emptiness, like sense of being that is all pervading and not limited to one vantage point. I've become a lot more comfortable with seeing myself as just as much related to or one with the homeless people I pass by on the street as I am related to the billionaires that I love to like rage against for, you know, ruining the world. You know, I am all of them. And so I find that this practice of going back inward when examining synchronicities has brought me to a place where I really sense my oneness to a greater degree than I ever have before. And that's made me feel a lot less special, I guess. Like, so it's actually funny that when you first extended the invitation to be on your show, it took me a while to think about it because I was like, I don't have anything that important to say. Like, I'm just another human out here doing human things, you know? So, but yeah, then I decided it would be fun. So I came on here.
Well, I'm all for fun, Alicen. I am all for fun. This idea of no, you're not, you don't, you're not you, you're part of all and you don't exist, I think has to be put together with you are unique. You are where you are in time and space. Nobody else is where you are right now in Chattanooga, Tennessee, sitting there talking to me. It's just you. And that to be able to hold your uniqueness where you are with that you're not unique at all, or you're unique the way everybody else is unique.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is unique, so we're not unique. So we have to be able to do something that's hard for humans to do, which is hold opposites together.
That's so funny because in my bio I put that I love to ponder, or I have a penchant for pondering paradoxes, as you gleefully emphasized. This is exactly what I think about all day. It's like, I'm me, but I'm not me. And I can sit there for hours just thinking about the mystery of that, and I'll have the time of my life. I know other people would freak out, like, what do you mean I'm not real? Like, you know. So as you were kind of insinuating earlier, I don't think everybody should necessarily dive headfirst into that kind of contemplation without maybe a bit more experience on the spiritual path. It can be shocking to the system. It can be very destabilizing to contemplate these things. So yeah, I think to have a sense of center, like to be able to return to that center anytime you want, is probably the most necessary, useful practice that anybody on any spiritual path can have, I think. You know, because there's so many theories, so many explanations you can kind of get lost in like a giant maze, and so that center is the golden thread that keeps you attached to ultimate truth.
Golden thread. You had to
Yeah.
throw that one in there,
While the Minotaur is like coming
huh?
after you.
It's coming after you.
Yeah.
The what you're implying might be disturbing for some, but it's the fact, and you've said it, that there are some people more, let me say, evolved to be able to tolerate that paradox, to ponder that paradox. Uh, uh, and that paradox is not as precise as I prefer. I prefer polarity because it's easier
Mm.
to describe. There's the polarity of being my uniqueness, and there's polarity of being part of the whole thing where everybody is unique. And to be able to hold those polarities together will lead us to yet a new a new place. It's
Mm.
sometimes thesis, antithesis, synthesis is a phrase that's been around for quite a while, that we put the opposites together and you get something new. And that something new is a human like you who can handle both of them and still be centered. And this is less common in humanity now than I'd like to think.
Yeah, I would like to see more of that balance between polarities. I think a lot more people do seem to be waking up, and I know that's a funny thing to say because every era says that. If you look back throughout history, there are always these waves of awakening events where it seems like more and more people are interested in spirituality, or you'll see spiritual people talking about how it seems like everyone's waking up. So maybe over the course of history, that oscillation between a sort of general sleepiness into a sort of wakefulness happens, and then we dip back down. Maybe that's how it is, like a giant waveform across history. Or maybe just all time is simultaneous, as they say. It's not linear, and maybe the awakening happens every time one person wakes up, everyone wakes up at the same time. I love thinking about this stuff
Yeah,
because,
I see that. I'm going to slow you down here
oh
because
yeah.
I want to get to now. I love sine waves, which is just what you were drawing. Um, and I think they're spirals, and they're not just flat. And I think they're spirals. And right now, I believe I know there's enough evidence to suggest humanity is on a self-destructive path right now. And we need people who are able to expand beyond where a lot of people are to be able to see that there is more to see, like life is a dream, like synchronicities are reflections of our inner life. There also can be synchronicities that reflect global life, that reflect humanity's experience of being in this world. And I'd like to be able to suggest that we have to find people who can look not only at themselves in the way you're looking at yourself, be able to see these are reflections of your inner life, but groups of people who can see that happening in humanity as well.
Yeah, and one of the ways that that ability to kind of pull my perspective out of this one incarnation occurs is I've become very sensitive to this phenomenon where when I make a big shift internally and I decide, like recently, I was like, I'm quitting social media. Like, so I got off Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. I still somewhat use Substack. We're getting there. I'm a work in progress like everybody else, but made that big shift, and it was mostly spurred by how AI is just, oh my god, it's everywhere, and I'm not a fan of AI. Mostly in its form of like trickery and deception. I'm not a fan of the kind of AI that's used to sort of fool people into thinking this is a real video, this is a real image, this is a real political event that happened, you know? And so I was getting very sick of AI being all over my social media experience, and I made that huge shift to just like leave those realms where I was being exposed to that falsehood constantly in order to preserve my discernment and sense of truth. And when I made that shift, it seemed like suddenly 10 people in my personal life made the shift at the same time. And then when I would use Substack and just kind of look at what kind of essays people were writing, I was only seeing anti-AI stuff. And so there is the question of how much can the algorithm be considered spiritual or metaphysical? Is it all just engineered? Is it all just agendas? Or is it a black mirror, as it is so often called? You know, these devices, when the algorithm seems to be reading our minds, is it just another form of, is it just another filter that we can receive that feedback through from the so-called outer world? You know, it's tricky. Technology, I have such complicated thoughts about whether it's spiritual, you know, how can it not be spiritual? It's still part of the greater oneness, you know, but yeah, I think I'm kind of spinning away into a different topic now, so I'll pause right there.
It's a good different topic, and the key part of it is discernment. Is discernment. AI has polarity to it too. It can be very tricky. It is a very narcissistic entity, in that it always thinks it's right. When I use chat, it's always right. It's always, it tells you what it thinks you want.
Yes.
So it will engage you, and it lies. It makes up stuff. And I've had the experience of trying to pin it down, because it's a lot like some people say spirit guides are, if they show up in your life, they have to tell you the truth. One person said, "Are you from God?" is the right question. And if they say no, they're not for real for you. I mean, they're destructive. So it's like asking the right questions of the AI in the chat version, where it's got to tell you the truth, but you got to be discerning enough to know when it is not telling you the whole thing. And then keep asking. And that's what you have to do with your synchronicities with yourself. You have to see there's a connection between you and what's happening around you, but then you have to discern just what does that connection tell you about yourself. So just bringing it back to you and the subtitle of your book, it's all about you, baby, or some variation on that thing. Can you tell us a story, and maybe it'll be about your cat?
Oh, yeah. My cat, who I clearly adore because I have her framed on my bedroom wall here, she might make a guest appearance at some point during our conversation. So her name is Jupiter. And for context, last year...
Wait a minute, her name is Jupiter, and
yes.
Given you and your penchant towards paradox and poetry, we'll say, you picked Jupiter for a couple of reasons. So why don't you tell us that?
Oh, yeah. It'll make a lot more sense when you hear like her backstory, which is pretty horrifying. But basically, it has to do with how in mythology, Jupiter is the son of Saturn who finally overcame Saturn after his reign of tyranny of eating all of his own children because he didn't want to be dethroned and have anyone else inherit the throne from him. So Jupiter was the one who finally overcame Saturn. And so keeping that in mind, the backstory is that I have always had a very, very, very rough relationship with my mother. To get really poetic, sometimes I feel like she is Saturn incarnate. She has an energetic disposition towards binding and restricting others. She's very controlling. She's very cold. And so I never had the kind of emotional nurturing that some people get from their mothers. So my whole life was marked by feeling essentially caged and imprisoned by my mother. I was rarely allowed to leave the house. She used religion as a major form of control. How I dressed. I mean, everything. Every dimension of my life was under her control. And so I finally decided to cut her off last year and go no contact, estrange myself from her. And, I kind of, because of all of that control in my childhood, I never really had an easy time being independent, making my own choices. And so to have freedom was a very new experience for me. So I decided to move to Asheville, North Carolina. So there's a whole other bunch of synchronicities with Hurricane Helene and stuff and how I ended up back here, but we'll get there. Let me not get ahead of myself. So anyway, last year I had enough of my mom's control. I wanted to be free and liberate myself. So I estranged myself. I decided to move to Asheville, North Carolina. And when I got there, here's another layer of the synchronicities. As a musician, I have been trying in vain to find bandmates for years. It just never seems to work out, but I keep trying. And so I had this meeting with a local drummer in Asheville, and it looked fruitful, looked promising. We met up at a coffee shop. Nothing came of it. I was kind of disappointed. And when I was walking back to my car, I looked to my right, and there's this cat cafe. Now, one more layer of... Oh.
Wait a minute. A cat cafe.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like a cafe that cats go to.
Oh, well, yeah, it's really cool. A few different places do this where adoption shelters, they'll kind of not rent out their cats, but the cats will spend the day at the cat cafe, and people can come in for a snack, a drink, and then play with the cats for an hour. And then that's it. It encourages adoptions. It's a great way to get to know the cats before you adopt them. It's really cool. So the reason this is even cooler is because maybe 8 years prior, and I've never been a cat person. This is important to understand. I've never cared for cats. I grew up with dogs. I didn't understand cats. One time, 8 years prior, I had done a cat sitting gig for a coworker. And it was during this cat sitting gig that I learned that when a cat purrs on you while you have menstrual cramps, those cramps go away. And this is huge because I've always had extremely painful periods. So that was my one understanding of cats. If they played no other role in my life, it was to help me with my cramps. So I happen to be experiencing cramps as I'm walking by this cat cafe after this failed meeting with a drummer. And I'm like, okay, let me just see if maybe hanging out with the cats will help with my cramps a little bit. So I go in thinking I'm just going to spend 30 minutes there. I walk in, played with a bunch of different cats, and then this one cat, who became Jupiter, she jumped into my lap, curled up, and went to sleep for an hour. I didn't move. And my soul recognized her when she got on my lap. It was like, oh my God, this is my cat. And I couldn't explain it, but it was this instant recognition. And so I was scared though, because I've never had a cat. I didn't like them. I was like, am I supposed to adopt this cat? So while I no longer promote the seeking of signs or asking the universe for a sign, I did at the time ask God. I was like, God, if you want me to adopt this cat, please give me a sign by the end of the day. So later that day I went to church. It was this new church I had just happened to go to the week before, so I went back for Bible study. And this girl approached me and just started chatting me up. Lo and behold, she had a pendant on her choker necklace that was the exact logo of the cat cafe that I had just been to. And I was like, oh my God, it's following me here. I guess I've got to adopt this cat. So the reason this is even more cosmic, to bring it back to the conversation about Saturn, is that before I met Jupiter and named her such, her name was Miri, which is resonant with my mother's name, which is Marilyn. They both have the same root, and they both mean the salt of the sea or bitterness of the sea. So my cat, she used to have other owners, and then they decided to make a big move to Asheville, and in the process they lost her. They didn't know where she went. But turns out she had wandered into the big shipping container that they were using to move their stuff, and they didn't know she was in there. So they moved thinking they had just lost her, and they just had to give up searching for her. But then when they got to their destination, they returned the shipping pod to the warehouse. she was still in there. And so she was in there for a month before an employee found her. So she had no light, no water, no food. She was just in this black cube alone for a month. And the black cube is like the ultimate symbol of Saturn. And so she finally got found. The employee called the family like, hey, we found your cat. Do you want her back? And they said, no, we already adopted another cat. They were just very blasé about it. So, you know, she gets rescued, brought to the cat cafe where I got her. And I just thought that was so spooky how, you know, my whole life narrative was that I lived under my mother's control. My mother is the black cube of Saturn, just like encasing me in a coffin all of my life. I can't live, I can't do anything. And then I finally break free. And then I meet this cat within a few weeks of me moving to Asheville, where she had symbolically a very similar trajectory where she was trapped in this black cube, and it was a very Saturnian theme to her life. And both of us, you know, we're on this like liberation journey. So I named her Jupiter because of the mythology of Jupiter overcoming Saturn. And then to round it all off, and this is a story unto itself, but Hurricane Helene, which is what triggered my awakening to, you know, the dreamlike nature of reality. And it's interesting that Helene means light. So Helene made me like kind of wake up to the reality of life being a dream. And because it, you know, wiped out Asheville, I had to move back to the family home and, you know, return to contact with my mother and get along with her. But Jupiter, my cat, being in the house has, I mean, uplifted the entire family. I mean, my mother is Jupiter brought out something sweet and nurturing and maternal from my mother that I have never seen before. Like, my mother is a nice human being now. Like, she's actually really pleasant and she loves Jupiter. She's so kind. And now my mother and I get along. So after a lifetime of, you know, all this like tension between us, now, like, you know, it all rounds off with the shift in myself towards my own liberation actually seems to have, in a way, freed my mother retroactively from her own emotional pain. And Jupiter is like the force that brought that free feeling into all of our lives. So yeah, that's the story.
And have you written the song?
About Jupiter? Not yet. I mean, actually, yes, I have. But it's not released yet. But I've been working on it for a while. It's just that I want it to be perfect. So
Yeah, well, this is such a good story. How did Jupiter survive a month with no food or water?
Man, I don't know, but I mean, I it's hard to think about because she is just the sweetest girl. She's not like most cats. She, you know, cats have the stereotype of like knocking stuff off of tables and like being menaces, but she's so sweet and polite and cuddly. And I guess I did talk to a pet psychic actually. I believe he was legitimate. He like telepathically was having an exchange with my cat and would relay what she said to me. And he said something about how animals are a lot more in the moment than we are, so they don't experience the passage of time in quite the same way. And he said something about how she had this sense in her heart that there was something more for her in this life, that she shouldn't give up hope because on the other side of this suffering there was going to be something amazing. And she was telling him that when we connected, she said her life went from black and white to technicolor. Like, she described herself as a little sprout in the ground that finally had sunlight that she could look up to and reach towards. And she said, I'm that sunlight. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God, my cat is saying the nicest things about me. I've seen videos where people talk to a pet psychic and their cat is just roasting them. Like, I don't like how you smell. I don't like the food you give me. I don't like this. I don't like that. But my cat was like, Alicen is the sun that I reach for. She helps me grow and come alive. Like, I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, there's a song coming for sure.
There's a song I just heard, and how you described it with so much feeling from your heart and love and amazement and transformation. I mean, to have your mother go from Saturn to Jupiter and to you, and because Jupiter showed up in your life and said,
Yeah.
Saturn, you're gone. I'm over. I'm here. And life is going to be a little different.
Hmm.
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah, and one thing I love to contemplate is how if any moment in my life had been different, this beautiful union of souls would not have happened. Like if I hadn't done that random cat sitting gig for a coworker 8 years before, and if I hadn't found out that way that cats are good for menstrual cramps, and then if I hadn't been trying to find bandmates for so long, and like all these little things, if my friend Jocelyn hadn't moved to Asheville and then been the reason that I wanted to move there, none of this would have happened. And I wouldn't have been lined up at that perfect moment to meet Jupiter. And I'm just so glad I'm on this timeline and not some other timeline where she's not in my life, because she's such a joy. I mean, just everybody loves her. Every single one of my friends is obsessed with her and wants her for themselves. And I'm like, sorry guys, she's my cat. Like, so yeah.
I have a question about if this hadn't happened and that hadn't happened and that
Mm.
hadn't happened. When people talk like that, they tend to feel they're being guided.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you're saying that.
No, I mean, I have not quite figured out how I feel about the mystery of the Trinity, of like God being in us, but also beyond us and also all around us. I would love to come back and flesh that out after this, after answering this question. But I have really come to see how much it is our responsibility to be in a certain state of being that allows certain events to unfold, because we do have free will. I believe we have free will. I think you I could have been blessed with a cat earlier in my life, but would I have been psychologically prepared for it? Would I have been the right owner for Jupiter at some other phase of my
There's a
life?
lot. One of the things that you are demonstrating to me how well you do ifs and maybes.
Hmm.
You do, you you really can do them. So I'm interrupting you right now in that process because I don't think it gets us very far
Mm.
to just talk about ifs and maybes. We
Mm.
talk about what is and what happened. Just like Jupiter had to
Ah.
do that right now. There's something more for me here. That's all Jupiter did. And that's human.
Mm.
That's what humans need to do, because this spinning out that is also a creative part of you is also an inhibiting part of you and many, many other people. And
Ooh.
I'm going to stay with your it's all about you one.
Yeah.
That one there, the
Well,
signs point to you.
yeah, yeah. So what I'm expressing is that I feel like because I made a shift, like I made a conscious choice to change my victim mindset into one where I can take charge of my life and I can be independent. That it was that seems to have broken open the door to the life I have
Definitely,
now. Yeah.
definitely, definitely. I'm going to be free. I'm
Yeah.
going to be free. I'm going to be free of that mother of mine that made me into that black hole that
Mm.
Jupiter also was in, that Saturnian prison. And I'm
Mhm.
going to be out. That's the key part of it. And you decided.
Yes.
And then what I use just to make it simpler uh, is that we have a capacity, which I call human GPS, which is getting to where we need to be without knowing how we got there.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, that's how it is every time. It's like, whoa, suddenly my life is like this, and I didn't orchestrate it, at least not on
Yes,
purpose.
the, well, the on purpose part is what I'm addressing,
Mm.
is that we don't know our purposes a lot. And the more you get into this psychological intuition, sometimes called spiritual, the more you recognize that your cognitive processes are a part of it, but not the whole thing at all.
Mm.
That what you do is more important than what you think about what you do. When you move ahead with the breakout, which is what you did, and you move here and you move there and you go here and you go there and you hear about the menstrual cramps and you hear about the cats, you are going to places. in which you have a little more control over that dream we call life.
Mm.
That you have a free will, and our dreams have some of us in them too, where you, Alicen Grey, musician, singer, sang your song without knowing
Mm.
you were singing it, to be able to meet the right person. And I know that your cat is a person.
Yeah, I just had a visitor for a second there. Yeah, I love that you brought it back to like music, because earlier, right at the beginning of our conversation, when you said about frequency and how like it seems like artists who deal in frequencies of color and sound and such, and dance and movement, seem to have more of an inclination to be sensitive to synchronicity. I do think it really does have to do with how our states of being create cymatic patterns. Are you familiar with the study of cymatics?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well,
just for any of your
describe it for our audience.
viewers, yeah. So cymatics is the study of how sound becomes tangible and takes on a visible form. So you can look up videos online, like on YouTube, they're all over the place, where people will take a flat tabletop and put sand on it, and then they'll play a certain frequency, and the sand will move itself into these different geometric patterns that look like Hindu yantras, like mandalas and stuff. And each frequency will have its own specific pattern, and they all look different from each other. So sound has a form, and I've been coming to this understanding that, you know, when they say that manifesting is all about your state of being and your state of feeling, it's actually, I would go as far as to say that you create different cymatic patterns in your energy body, and like by holding a certain frequency, you become a certain shape internally that then fits like a puzzle piece with a certain reality, and like locks into it. Like it's like you become a frequency key, like a living frequency key that opens certain dimensional doorways. And so yeah, back to how me making that shift and saying I want my freedom, like I am free, that made it so that the outer world became a perfect fit with that frequency and reflected it back to me. And so
Oh,
yeah.
I'm big into that frequency idea, and that I start with each of us has potentially contact with a signature frequency of our own, our energy
Mm.
signature, that it's closer to our true self, it's closer to our vulnerability, it's closest to our authenticity, it's closest to what allows us to connect with other people who are also vibrating at their energy signature. And
Mm.
it's a resonant, it's not the same, but there's something, and I can't describe it yet, of how these resonants amplify each other, so that when you come together with somebody, and it happens to me on the dance floor more often, so it's not surprising to me anymore, where I start dancing with somebody and it starts moving, and we start moving, and then we become part of each other as we're dancing together at a resonant frequency. And that happened with that 10-year-old girl I was telling you about. For just a little bit of time, maybe 5 or 10 seconds, her
Mm.
frequency and mine were right there together, and it's such a good feeling when that happens. What,
Yeah.
what you've added, I hadn't thought about, is that you can become a frequency that matches frequencies around you, that opens doors, that it
Mm.
becomes a key. Your frequency becomes a key to a new opening for yourself. I love that idea.
Yeah, and I have another example to share. A few months ago, um, so basically, I've finally met the love of my life, but after years and years of trying to manifest them in vain and not understanding that, you know, you have to be love in order for love to, like, you know, emanate forth and then reflect back to you from the outer world. So I
Wait,
had
wait,
written
before
this.
you go on with that
Oh
story,
yeah.
please let me know. Others might be interested, but please let me know what being love is.
Oh yeah. So, well, I'll put it this way. I had this very silly, misguided idea that in order to meet your soulmate, you have to like make a list and make a vision board and visualize them really hard, you know. And I was doing that for years, and I was like, why have I not met them yet? What's wrong with me? And then finally, I heard someone say, you have to fall in love with yourself. And I feel like I've heard that maybe before, but for some reason it finally landed when this one person said it. I was like, fall in love with myself? That sounds a bit taboo. Like, you're not supposed to be like madly in love with yourself, right? But what if I did that? What if I fell
It's
in
so
love with myself?
narcissistic.
Yeah.
It's so we're not shouldn't do that, but it is narcissistic. It is narcissistic, but not in the sense that I'm always right and
Right.
that I don't listen to other people. It's again a polarity that you're illustrating here. The good part of the continuum that is narcissism is in being able to love yourself.
Yeah, like how you were saying earlier about how there's the recognition that you are this unique emanation of God that is, well, you didn't say that, but I'm just kind of putting my own words
That's
to it.
no, I'm saying that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, I think hearing that person say it like that, like fall in love with yourself, it put me back in touch with the part of me that, like, when I was younger, I used to think I was the coolest person ever. I thought I was so cool, and I had this like rock star energy, and I just knew I was interesting. I knew I liked myself, and there was no question about it. But over the years, like, shame and judgment and rejection, and like, I let all of that get to me and bury my love of myself under this fear of being called a narcissist, right? I was like, well, I don't want people to think I'm full of myself or that I'm vain. So I started shrinking myself. And so I heard that person say that. It woke something up in me. And then something very interesting happened where I had 3 separate conversations with different friends who, for some reason, every single conversation, these friends of their own volition just started saying, Alicen, like, I really admire you. You're such a go-getter. You're so talented. Like, you're so creative and artistic. And they started listing all of the things that I had put on my list of what I wanted in a soulmate. And I was like, whoa, could it be that the soulmate I've been pining for years was me? The signs do indeed point to me. So I decided in that moment that I was in a relationship. I was satisfied. Love was here already. And I was in love this whole time. I just wasn't letting myself love my soulmate, who is me, for all my silly reasons. So then I just decided, like, in that moment, I actually genuinely felt like if I never met a soulmate in the outer world and it was just me for the rest of my life, I would actually be okay. Like,
That's so important,
yeah,
Alicen Grey,
yeah.
whatever your other name was. That's so important that you are sufficient with yourself. A lot of us seem to be looking for that other person that fills what we want to connect with in ourselves.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Yeah.
The simple version is like, so I'm a man. I'm looking for the female version of my divine masculine. So, and I have found her. I have found her. I can't get away from her. She's in China, and I haven't seen her in 2 years. But I just texted her saying that I love you deeply in 5D. And what I don't know if you and I make contact with you in 5D, and I don't know if you can feel that contact. And whatever you do with what I've just written is okay with me.
Yes, exactly. It's like, I love you whether you love me back or not, because I am love. It's just going to emanate out regardless of, what the consequences may be, what rejections I may face, And so to be in that state is so powerful. And I know that, like, if anyone's listening and they've been yearning for their soulmate, they don't want to hear that you do need to find love in yourself. But it's liberating to realize it's been there all along and it never left you, and that's what love is. It's just this unconditional, it's there with you forever. It never gives up on you. It's always easy to find. It's right here. And so I finally reached that place where I was like, I'm not grasping out there anymore. I'm here. That's when you become magnetic. So within days, this man I had been very close friends with for 3 years, we got together for a remote mixing session of my song, which is about living the dream of life. It's all about, like, you know, manifesting from your state of being and such, and taking responsibility for your life. So we're mixing my song together. And mind you, the biggest thing on my list of things I wanted in a soulmate was I wanted musical compatibility. I wanted someone I could make like epic music with. And I wanted us to have like a flow, a creative flow between us that was very easy. Like, we deeply understand each other's artistry. So we're mixing my song, and he's sharing his screen so I can, like, you know, see all the different things he's doing. And I would have a thought like, oh, I wish he would make a frequency cut at 7K or something like that. And before I would even say it, he would do it. And then that went on for like a whole hour of just us telepathically mixing my song together. Like, we barely spoke about what changes to make. It just was happening. And then at some point he like confessed his feelings to me. And I was like, yeah, I have feelings for you too. And then ever since then we've been, you know, we're just devoted to each other. And it was like he was there all along. We were friends for 3 years, but I couldn't see the love that was right there because I wasn't in love yet. Like, to be in love is to be in love, like in here, you know what I mean? Yeah. So also the video, it's funny that another synchronicity now involving you is that you have this intro on your videos where it's like an ammonite shell and a galaxy coming together. My video, which I made months before you had contacted me and I didn't know about you, was like, it involved those symbols in my music video, just like spinning on the screen. So that'll be out soon.
I like those. And what coincidences like that do is make us a little closer with each other. Because it's a little bit, and I only say a little bit, like being able to know when the do the cut on the music, and he's right there with you. When you have a bunch of those, and you're in sync with each other, is another way of talking about it. And the difference between telepathy and being in sync is not even worth doing sometimes. It's just there, and to be able to do that with someone, to be able to move together without arranging it, is what I'm seeing the future of humanity being able to, I'll say, create, manifest, do. That this is the sort of thing that I want to see the future human being able to do, what you are doing with the love of your life, is being in sync with each other. And we can do that with other people who are also able to, and I put it in more like male terms, but it's love too, but to be able to vibrate at my energy frequency, to be able to be from my heart and my mind and having them connected and be able to emanate them out in a way that someone who is receptive to that can pick up. That's part of the future of the new human and human relations, what you and the love of your life are now doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I had always desired to make art and create, you know, not just music and writing and such, but create worlds and create thought forms that could fill the world with more beauty and light. And, you know, it's interesting that I had that shift internally where I was like, you know what, I am in love already. I'm in love and I'm here by myself, but I'm in love with myself and it's fine. Like, I don't need to grasp outwardly. At the same time that I was having that shift inside of myself, he tells me that that was when he had the shift in himself, that he was okay without, you know, a companion. Like, he could feel the love already in himself. And so we both simultaneously, spontaneously, but separately had that shift, and then that's what brought us together. And so you really do, by unlocking, or becoming that frequency key, like you do unlock dimensions that were right in front of you, but you just couldn't see them because you weren't in that frequency. Because I just can't get over the fact that we were friends for 3 years, and it was like I was seeing him with new eyes after I decided to be in love. He was there the whole time, and I've heard a lot of people say that the person they wind up being with as their soulmate is someone they knew for years, or they just weren't ready before, and so that's a big part of it.
This is the best use of the term awakening that I've ever heard.
Oh,
Because the term
yeah.
awakening is kind of confusing to me. Awakening to what? And awakening needs an object. It's not awake. When you awake, you're awaking to the waking world. That's the sleeping part of it. But awakening is the way you use it, awakening to what was right in front of you, the love between you and him. And the way I'm writing a book on the future of humanity, and one of the ideas is this, I don't know what awakening means, but it's the same problem I've had with the word awareness. People talk about, oh, awareness is so important. I say, awareness of what? Because awareness is one of those general words that implies an object, but doesn't necessarily include it. So you can fill it in with whatever object you want. Awakening, the way you used it, I mean, the way I'm used to saying you used it, has an object, and that's a clearer version of that word.
Yeah, I feel like the word awakening to me brings up images of like filling up space with light, like so you can see everything that was already there a bit more clearly in like higher definition. That's how it feels, to have awakened to the love within myself. It's like it lit up this love that was right in front of me, like, and so I think of light a lot as a useful metaphor for lucidity in the dream of life, so to speak.
Now, why does she use light and lucid together in the same, to define one but with loose light with lucid? I don't know. I don't know. I'm afraid I have trouble with
Lux.
words.
Oh, yeah, the etymology, I know they're basically the same, like,
Well,
yeah.
they're related to each other. The light, shining the light makes things more lucid. It's just fun to hear you almost not consciously playing around with words. Uh,
Oh no, I'm aware. I'm aware. Well, aware. I'm aware of the light in the term lucid. I have this whole like personal cosmology or like anatomy of the universe that explains how sleeping or there's like awakening to a dream that you had at night. That's the kind of awakening most people are familiar with. But then to awaken to life is like a higher, so to speak. It sounds insulting, like, but that's how I understand it. It's like you can then become aware that this reality is relative to higher levels of consciousness, a dream, the way that most nighttime dreams are like, unconscious relative to everyday waking life for most people. So there are levels, I guess, of kind of awareness of yourself as being part of this interactive holographic feedback system of your own states of being. I don't know if any of that made sense if someone's just listening and not seeing what I'm doing with my hands.
well, it's about 11% of people who just listen, so uh, they'll be seeing you.
Okay, good.
This you're clarifying awakening and awareness in a way that is helpful to me. But we're getting near the end of our time together, and I
Yeah.
really want to ask you,
Okay.
um, back at the beginning, I told you about this chocolate chip cookie incident in the kitchen with these two girls aged 10 and 12, and Nani, the grandmother, and the grandfather could do that. And the 10-year-old who I dance with is same name as my roommate. Um, and dancing was part of it. So there were four elements that are key parts of my life that manifested or showed up there.
Mm.
And I look at that, I call it a mirroring of my inner life. And you're kind of talking in that direction, but I'd like to hear what you think of what I'm calling this mirroring in the chocolate chip cookie kitchen. Chocolate chip cookie kitchen.
Yeah, well, what I gather from the way you're describing it is that you have a positive association with it. It seems to make you smile when you recount it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it could be that you were in that state, whether subconsciously or consciously, you were just kind of in that state of maybe nostalgia for some family memories or something, and then that would be conducive to having all of those little synchronicities come together into this more complex setting, or complex like interweaving of synchronicities. So like we don't even, I think generally we humans don't even realize how many states of being we occupy at one time. Like if I bring my conscious awareness to my emotional state, and then that changes something over here in my life, then over here I might be unaware of some other state of being I'm also holding, but then it's these synchronicities that make us aware, like, oh, I guess somewhere in me I'm still maintaining a frequency that I had way back in childhood. I wonder what would happen if I changed that frequency, or just became more conscious of it, right? And so yeah, I think of these synchronicities as always like this perpetual invitation to ask the self, like, ooh, where in me did that come from? Was that from a memory from childhood? Was that from a conversation I had last week? Like, but knowing that whatever we see in front of us is a result of a state of being we've been occupying. So I wonder what it was for you.
The I could talk a little bit about that. Thank you.
Yeah.
The fundamental thing that you are requiring is to be able to scan your own memory bank
Mm-hmm.
to remember things
Mm-hmm.
about you that match what's going on here in some way. A lot of people don't have the self-awareness that you have and the curiosity that you have about what goes on in your own mind. Being in the Saturn cage required you to be able to stay with it
Mm.
like Jupiter did in the box, to be able to stay with what was going on inside of you in those days.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really a prison that made you yet, I'm guessing, more self-aware. That's what I'm guessing, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what, and it kind of happened to me in a different way. So what I wanted to bring up to you is that when I was thinking about this quacking I was doing, this Donald Duck thing, and one of the girls was asking me about it, I remembered and told her that this kid Richie across the street was 7 years old, and I was 5, and Richie was really good at doing Donald Duck. He could really understand him.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, if Richie can do it, I can do it. So I picked it up right away and started being able to quack, not as well, but I could do it just right there. So when the two girls tried to be able to do it themselves, they couldn't. And they wanted to see how I did it. And that wasn't the right question, I began to see.
Mm.
I showed them, but that wasn't the right question. I could see I'm a Pisces. My boundaries are not that good, and they never have been, and that's been part of what I've been able to keep learning. So I could experience Richie, when I was 5 years old, experiencing his own quacking in a way,
Hmm.
that I could identify enough with it so that I became Richie for a moment,
Mm-hmm.
enough so that I could then do what Richie was doing.
Mm-hmm. That reminds me so much of all the best singing teachers I've had have been able to empathize, like access your vantage point through empathy to figure out what you're doing exactly with the placement of your tongue, or like, how you're positioning yourself internally to make your voice sound the way it sounds. And if they need to correct something you're doing, they have to be able to feel it in their own body in order to then teach you how to do it. So it is about like understanding oneness, like in order to teach, you have to remember how to be a student and like become each other in that moment. And so that's not the heart of what you were sharing just
It
now.
is.
Oh,
Well, it is. It
oh,
is.
okay.
Oh, it is. The girls tried to have me tell them, like the singing
To
teacher
rationalize
telling
it.
you where to, yeah,
Yeah.
where to put your tongue, but the, that's what they were trying to get me to do, and I couldn't do it. And then what they needed to do is what the singing teacher does, which is experience you trying to sing and see where you're missing something and be
Mm-hmm.
able to reflect that back with you. So that gets to be back to that the sound thing you were talking about earlier. I just prefer resonance and frequency,
Mm-hmm.
so that we each have a vibration at a different frequency that we can resonate with if we're in the right place to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that resonance, I'll add this, leads to coherence between me and the other person. So something gets established through those four steps of, well, I'll use the terms also, attunement, alignment, resonance, and then coherence.
Mm-hmm.
And that sequence is what allows me to be able to dance with some people, both on the dance floor and also in life sometimes when they're open to being able to do that with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's such a joy to be able to like share a frequency with someone in a way that allows you to co-create together and also just recognize your oneness. And I'll actually do an example of what we've been talking about this whole time with like scanning, like tracing back your memories. You're now making me realize that yesterday I saw a video. It was like one of those videos on The Cut, I think. It's this show that puts random people together on blind dates. So there were these two women on this blind date, and one of them revealed that her hidden talent was doing that Donald Duck thing, and then the other woman decided to try it too and did it even better. And so then they were talking about how they just, each other's Donald Duck impressions, and then you're over here talking about, it's like, see, this is synchronicity. It's like, I guess somewhere in me I was still carrying that, like, I don't know, just like kind of amusement at like the Donald Duck sound. And then, yeah, here you are kind of echoing it back. Like, so I do think even something little like that, it counts. Like, I don't think there's such a thing as like a trivial synchronicity. I think it's all an invitation, an ongoing invitation to be aware of what you dwell on, what kind of things you expose your mind to, what kind of things you occupy your mental space with. And yeah, no harm in contemplating Donald Duck. It's just funny that that would be the thing that would be echoed back today in our conversation.
It is, and my interpretation of it, Alicen Grey, with an E and not an A,
Yeah.
Alicen Grey with an E and not an A, is that it shows interconnectedness. That one of the primary teachings of synchronicity is our minds are part of what's going on around us.
Hmm.
And you've just helped me experience two women doing a Donald Duck thing, where one of them picked it up and could do it better than the other. That's really cool. So that's a good story for me. I take that in. I feel it, and what I've learned from you by going over these things is my ability to resonate with someone in a way like your music teacher, like these two Donald Duckers, like I could do with Richie, is like we all have a capacity like that.
Hmm.
And thanks for making that yet clearer to me, Alicen.
Oh, well, thank you for this very illuminating conversation. I hope that your viewers and listeners enjoyed it as well.
Well, and I hope your friends and whatever you call social media these days enjoy it also. Would you like to end with anything in particular?
Hmm. Well, I hope that people do feel inspired to get a copy of my book. But also, just I hope that this conversation, yes. I hope that this conversation was fruitful and illuminating for anyone who encountered it. And I look forward to reading the comments of how it resonated with people.
Good. And I hope you respond to the comments that
Yes.
you get.
Yes, I will.
Sometimes we get a bunch, sometimes we get very few, but it's there for you to comment. So
Will do.
again, I'll send it to you when it's out.
All right. Well, thank you again for having me on. And here is my substar, my not substar, co-star. There's Jupiter. Yeah, sitting in the sun.
Bye, Jupiter. Bye, Alicen.
Bye.